Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's SAGA session. My name is Tobias, and I'm the host for these sessions. And SAGA is the Swedish Annual Game Design Awards, and we hold these sessions at least once per month to spread knowledge about board game design and game design-related questions or topics. Let's see if someone wanted to join. There we go. And we do this in collaboration with the Discord channel Spill Design Bubble. Okay, for each of these sessions, we invite a special guest who will do a presentation about a topic of their choice. And tonight we have invited Daniel Olai, who is the lead organizer or head organizer for the Swedish Annual Game Design Awards. So we will get a lot of information about the award for 2026 and how it will all go down. And actually, I don't remember. Do you want the questions during your presentation or afterwards?
Oh, it's people can ask questions whenever. I'll probably talk everyone's head off, so it's good to get a break once in a while.
Yeah, okay. And if you prefer to write in the chat, just do that, and we'll try to stop Daniel when it's a good time to do that. Okay, we will also hold a questions and answers thing after the presentation, as usual. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight, Daniel, and welcome to tonight's session, everyone. Okay, go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Like Tobias already mentioned, my name is Daniel Olai. I am a, economist by day, game designer by night. I wanted to be like a superhero thing where I put on my cape during the nights and design board games. I guess I'm not really there yet. So, bit of a background. I started Swedish Annual Game Design Awards in 2024 when I had participated and attended a few board game design competitions of my own, and I wanted one to be I wanted there to be one in Sweden as well, focused on Sweden. So we ran a competition last year, and this year, or next year, I should say, for 2026, we're back with a bigger, stronger, better, harder, faster, stronger version of Swedish Annual Game Design Awards. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. So I think I'll go ahead and steal the screen from you, Tobias, in just a bit.
Please go ahead.
Let's see here. I think I can still. There we go. Can you see it now? Is this visible?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect. So, if, like Tobias said, if at any point you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask them. You preferably raise your hand using the Google Meet feature, and I will stop where convenient and take the question. I would like Tobias said there will also be a few minutes at the end of the session where, or a lot of minutes actually, where you can just ask me questions freely about anything. So I've titled this presentation "Vision and Rules for 2026." So, but before we go into like the the nitty-gritty of everything that is Swedish Annual Game Design Awards, I wanted to start out with the most important things so that we take those up front. And if you only listen to any part of my presentation and take something with you, it should be this slide. So, the important things. So, SAGA is a board game design competition. It is centered around Sweden. Our goal is to increase board game design activities in Sweden and with Swedish designers. This is our second year running, and like I said, we're trying to make it better, harder, faster, stronger in all ways possible. New for this year, which is the big thing, is we're doing regional qualifiers in January, February, March, and April in Stockholm, Göteborg, Malmö, Jönköping, and Umeå, and I will tell you more about what that entails. But basically, we will have a final at LinCon, and last year we only did online signups, where, like many other board game design competitions, you send in a submission, and then we look at that submission and pick the ones we like the most. But this year we're also doing regional qualifiers, where you instead can just take your game, show up, have some people play it, and then potentially get into the final that way instead, and just skip the whole sending things in through online and be dependent on your graphic design skills and stuff. Okay, so like I said, the final will be at LinCon 2026. It is one of Sweden's largest, if not the largest, board game convention in Sweden, with nearly 2,000 visitors every year. It is held in the Swedish town of Linköping in the middle of May. During the 15th and 16th of May, we will hold the final. And very important note for this is that since we are a board game design competition focused on Sweden and we want to build community in Sweden, we require physical presence for the actual final. So if you are an international person or a person who does not currently live in Sweden, know that if you do qualify for the final, if you want to be able to win, you will need to show up physically to LinCon. So take that into consideration before you decide on whether or not you want to participate. Yes, Simon.
Hey, I just want to ask, does it mean you have to be there for the whole thing, or is it just a few days, 1 day?
We're doing 2 days, and we expect you to be there both days. If you have some strong reason for why you can't be there both days, we can probably maybe work it out. But I'll get to why it might be a bit difficult. But in short, you will not only be showcasing your own game, you will also be expected to play the games of others. And if you can only attend 1 day, then that messes with our ability to schedule things properly, basically.
Yeah, I understand.
Yep. Good. Okay. Moving on then. Oh, and yes, if you can read the things I just mentioned, along with almost any details I take up during this presentation, you can find on our webpage. So if you at any point want to read up on things, or you forget anything I say, don't worry. You can find all information at saga.boardgamedesign.se. Okay, so now the nitty-gritty. What will I be talking about today? I'll start out with talking a little bit about the goal of Saga, and this is important because I want people who participate in the competition to know why we do things the way we do and not some other way. Then I'll talk a little bit of what it was like last year and the experiences we had and some lessons learned and that sort of stuff. Then I'll go in a bit into what it actually means for someone to participate. Like, what do we expect? What do you get out of it? That sort of stuff. And then I'm moving on to the how do I win part, basically. And basically how do we decide the winner of the competition with our jury and our regional qualifiers and the finals and that sort of stuff. Then I'll also talk a little bit about what you win if you actually win this competition. It's actually not only fame and eternal glory. We have a few other things that you do actually win. And finally, once I've gone through all those things, I'll talk about how do you actually sign up for the competition to get a chance to go to the final. Perfect. So first and foremost, vision and goal. So I put up, we have this picture on our webpage as well, to the picture to the right, and it says a Swedish watering hole for board game design. So we want to, so what we've talked about thoroughly before we even started this competition, me and a few game designer friends, is we wanted something inside the Swedish board game design community which we could gather around. So we have quite a few game designers in Sweden, but we're quite fragmented. We live in different parts of our very long country, and people don't have a good platform where they can interact with each other or something that they can gather around. I remember I started game design in 2020, and like, if it hadn't been for Tobias' excellent Discord channel, Spel Design Bubble, which I recommend everyone to join, then I probably wouldn't have gotten into the Swedish board game design community at all, and my progress as a game designer would have been stifled, and I wouldn't have gotten as far as I've gotten today in my own game design journey. And I want to create opportunities, and my friends do as well. We want to create opportunities for others to experience the same thing, to have something where they can use as a first step to get inside a community and grow as game designers. So yeah, basically you can summarize our whole vision goal as we want to strengthen game design activities in Sweden and to become a gathering place for everyone who's interested in board game design. Important distinction here. We're saying a Swedish watering hole for board game design and not a watering hole for Swedish board game designers. So we are very much open to interacting with international board game designers, and we want international board game designers to join in on the fun as well, either at a distance or preferably in person, coming to Sweden and hanging out with us and taking the opportunity to meet a ton of other board game designers and learn and grow and, you know, network and all that sort of good stuff. Okay, so that's the sort of backdrop for why we do what we do. And this will become important for why we've made some choices as to how we've rigged this whole thing. Okay, so moving on, I'll want to talk a little bit of what happened last year. So in short, the setup last year was that people were able to sign up online in the month of October of 2024, and we picked 20 games to be part of the final at the start of November. And then those 20 games got developed by their designers for about 6 months before we all gathered at LinCon 2025, which was on the 29th of May was the final, if I remember correctly. And then we gathered all the people you can see in the pictures. We gathered all of them in one room. So we had the 20 games, the designers for those games, we had a few co-designs part of the competition. I think we were like 25 designers or 24. And then we had a jury consisting of, I think we had 8 jury members, if I remember correctly. Magnus can correct me on this if I don't remember correctly. And basically we just played a whole ton of games the whole day. We started before lunch at like 10, and then we just played and played and played and played until the night at like 8 or 9 in the evening. And then we in this competition we tried out last year for our very first iteration to have a sort of ranking system. So everyone who was part of the competition also played a bunch of other games and then ranked those games. And then we took all the rankings of both the people who were themselves participating as well as the members of the jury, and we put it into a model. I'll just say model in a loose sense because I don't really want to go into details how the coding behind it actually works. But it took all the rankings and then it basically spit out whoever had the highest aggregated ranking, so to speak. So it's a sort of, we like this ranking system because it brings together, I mean, everyone is sort of part of deciding who ends up as the winner. I think as I've thought about it more, it's sort of like Eurovision in that sense, that everyone who's part of every country gets to vote, and everyone's vote goes in. So it's like it's a nice feeling of democracy to it all. Like everyone gets their say in who ends up the winner. So yeah, we're quite fond of it, and it worked surprisingly well last year. So some things, yeah. So this was the it was the first time from the campaign. This was the first time we ran the competition. Online signups, find out LinCon. We had a total of 58 submissions for the online section, and we're hoping for way more this year. Gotta go up. Only ways up, so to speak. Like I said, 20 games in the final. Hey, 8 external jury members, and then about 40 intense game sessions all in one day. So some lessons learned, which will then help explain why we've changed the format a little bit. So the 6 months that we had between us picking the games that were selected for the final and the actual final, we wanted that period to be a period where we could build community with those who were part of the competition. It worked to an extent. We did many different activities. So we had seminars, we had digital playtesting events, we have physical playtesting events, we had rulebook reviews, and we had a Facebook group where everyone who was part of the final could interact basically and share knowledge amongst themselves and that sort of stuff. And what we basically learned was that people were more interested in interacting online in the board game communities that already exists and thrive, rather than also interact in this space where there were only Saga designers. Sadly. It might be, I think it's a combination, it's a combination of that and us not maybe being able to handle the amount of work that we need to do to build a thriving community in such a short time. So that is one lesson we're taking with us. We need some other way to build community around this competition that is not only online. That was one of the conclusions we had from last year. The other big conclusion we had was that running 40 game sessions in one day for 20 games was fun and intense and a blast, but it was also quite, exhausting, and the schedule had to be really, really tight. And if we wanted to grow this competition to feature more games and more designers, we would have some very strong limitations if we only had it during one day. So, do I have anything else? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So those were the two big lessons learned from last year, in my opinion. And yeah, I didn't mention it, but we ended up picking 2 winners. So we have 2 categories that each competitor can take part in. You either, and I'll talk more about those categories soon. But for now, know that we elected 2 winners, and you can actually see one of the winners in the picture over here. In the bottom left picture is for one of the winners holding the trophy. The also nice Saga trophy. Okay. Moving on then. So what does it mean to participate in this competition? So first off, the end goal is the final at LinCon 2026, it should say there. So ignore the 2025 parts, which will be during the 15th and 16th of May. 2 days of just board game design and intense, learning, networking, and just having a lot of fun doing board game design and meeting a ton of other designers. And like I mentioned before, this year we're adding a second way to qualify. So like before, you can still do the online sign up, or you can go in through the regional qualifiers. And we hope that if you participate, you will get plenty of opportunities to grow as a game designer. And I can bear witness to the strength of having a set deadline for when your game has to be more or less, not finished, but at least presentable and something that other people can play and touch and feel. It can help you tremendously in getting to work. You will also get plenty of opportunities to meet other board game designers and network, not only during the final, but also during all our regional qualifiers. You will get to be part of a community. There are a ton of board game designers inside the Saga community that we're trying to grow steadily, of varying degrees of experience and success and whatnot. So there's so much knowledge, and I haven't met one person I didn't like so far, which is saying something. Because, yeah. And also, the final thing is, by being part of this competition, regardless if you win or not, you will have so many eyes on your game just for taking part. During the final, you will have not only several members of a jury, an external jury, look at your game and say basically what they think about it. You will also get eyes from other designers and people at LinCon, and so many opportunities to get valuable feedback on whatever game you're working on, which is invaluable. Okay, so like I mentioned before, your game basically participates in one of two categories. We have one for heavier games, which we're calling the anvil. And we have one category for lighter games, which we're calling the feather. So with heavier games, we mean so-called expert or hobby games, where a player's decision-making has greater influence on their progress and success. The playing time is usually longer, and there are usually more rules. And examples of games that fit into this category are like Agricola, Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, or Gloomhaven, the heavy stuff. The other category is for lighter games, the feather category, and which typically translates into like family games and party games and maybe gateway games. The playing time is generally shorter, the rules are lighter and fewer, and examples of games that fit into this category are more like Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, Cards Against Humanity, and Sushi Go. So what we did last year, which I think we will also do this year, is that for games that were part of the feather category, the lighter one, you had 1 hour to showcase your game during the final. And if your game was part of the heavier category, you had 2 hours to showcase your game. So basically, if your game plays well in about an hour, then it should probably be part of the feather category. If it takes longer to run, then it should probably be part of the anvil category. That being said, games, these are not, hard lines in any way. There are heavy games that run very short, light games that run for quite a while. There are, games that fall in between, and that's fine. We just ask you when you sign up or when you participate in the regional qualifiers that you make a best guess as to where your game fits. And then we might move your game from one category to the other based on our own evaluations and estimates, or just the needs of the competition. I've talked a lot now, so I'll just stop briefly, because last year we had a lot of questions on this, lighter versus heavier sort of category thing we're doing. So do we have any questions at this point? Or do you want me to just continue? Simon, yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask, when you say 2 hours for a heavy game, That includes going through the rules, I expect.
Yes, it includes the teach as well.
Okay.
Tobias?
Yes, and last year each designer had 2 sessions to show their games in. Will it be the same for this year?
Undecided as of yet, but ideally, yes. I think 1 session won't be enough to get enough eyes on a game.
Okay, cool.
Tell me more about the regional qualifiers.
Oh, yes. That's actually my next slide. So very convenient, Frederick. You're doing like a good radio transition for me, which I enjoy.
We totally didn't agree this.
Okay, so regional qualifiers. So they will be held January through April of 2026. I don't know why I keep on writing 2025. I must be stuck in this year forever. So like I said before, we will be holding them in Jönköping, Malmö, Stockholm, Göteborg, and Umeå. And we haven't set the date in place for all of the regional qualifiers yet. But if you're interested in going to either Jönköping or Malmö, the one in Jönköping will be held on the 31st of January at VetCom. And the one in Malmö will be held on the 28th of February at Studiefrämjandet in Malmö. And we're working on the details for the 3 remaining ones, and we will announce the dates and locations for those as soon as we are able. It's not that there are a few things to figure out, like booking locales and that sort of stuff. Okay, so how do they work? So basically, you show up with your game, no rule book required. You just teach the game on site. The game can look as ugly as you want. We don't care. And that is not part of the evaluation. You showcase your game and play the games of at least 2 other participants. So I guess you should count on being there for at least like 5 to 6 hours, depending on how long the games you play are, I guess. And then when you're finished, you rank all the games you've played, and you submit your ranking to the one who's running the show. And then we run our model that I mentioned earlier, where we aggregate all the rankings, and then we choose a number of people who qualify for the final. And basically, the number of people that qualify depends on the number of participants. So for every 5 participants, 1 game qualifies, basically.
And by participants, you mean games?
Yes,
like
games.
5 people
Yes.
doing one game.
Yes, I mean games. For every 5 games that participates, 1 game qualifies. Thank you, Ricky. Okay, so that's basically it. Like we have deliberately made it pretty light on rules and asks of you as game designers, because we want as few barriers to entry as possible for you to show up to these things. If you have a game that you played a few sessions for, like everything's not quite there yet, but you see the potential, then by all means, show up, play it, get some eyes on it. And even if your game doesn't qualify, see it as a great opportunity to get some playtesting done for your game. That's basically our vision. I will say, though, that we do heavily prefer that you email us and sign up beforehand for these events. And I will talk more about that later. But basically, all you have to do is send us an email at saga@boardgamedesign.se and tell us who you are and the name of your game and what event you want to attend. You can show up on the day in question, but if all the tables are full and a lot of people have showed up and signed up before you, and then we can't guarantee you a spot in the qualifier. Okay. Any questions? Anders? I think you're muted or otherwise indisposed.
We're just not speaking.
Okay, he'll do it in text. Okay. Write quickly. Okay, we'll take Matthias first, and then I'll take Anders. So, Matthias, please go ahead. You're muted.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I was just thinking about that. You said it's two hours for the Anvil category, included the rules. Is it possible that if you have a game that takes longer than 2 hours, you can just show the game as long as you can, and then you just stop playing when you hit 2 hours?
Yeah, exactly. So what I said, and I could have been clearer on this, is that's just the time allotted for your showcasing of the game. We're not saying that the 2 hours is not a hard limit on what your playing time can be. So you can have a game that runs for 5 hours usually, but in terms of the competition, you will only get 2 hours to showcase your game.
Yeah, that's I understand now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll take Anders' question now. He writes, can you participate just to play and vote? We did discuss this in the board, so to speak, or in the inner circle, if you will. And I think we ended up saying that actually I'll need to look that up, so I will get back on that issue.
It sounds like what the jury did last year,
Yes, exactly.
basically.
We have talked about it. I just don't remember what we decided on. So I will get back to that issue. Okay, next question. Raised hand by Ja 2 faktiskt.
Yeah, that's me, Andreas. I got 2 questions. Just for knowing, is it okay to join more than one local event?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And would you? Is it preferable that the game is in English?
I would say yes, because we might have some participants that don't speak Swedish.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, did we have any other hands?
I have a question.
Yes, Fredrik.
So what about the very mature games? I read online on the website that it's as long as you don't have a Kickstarter campaign, crowdfunding campaign running, or a contract with a publisher, you can enter a game.
Yeah.
Do you actually prefer games that have been tested and developed, or do you prefer games coming straight from last Friday kind of thing?
I think we don't have a strict preference in terms of that. I think we want, but I'll say this, we want games that play well. So if your game plays well after you've just thought of them, then sure, by all means. But but we prefer games that have at least been played a few times, I guess, so that you can figure that sort of stuff out. But like, if you have the best idea ever on a Friday and then participate in the qualifier on Saturday and you end up qualifying, then by all means, sure.
Okay, but it's not a deliberate goal to develop new games. I mean, you can also take games that have been in a draw for 5 years and then dust them off and put them in.
We don't have a strict preference for new games, no.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Let's see here. Do we have any other questions? Otherwise, I will move on. Can't see any other raised hands at this point, so I'll guess we'll move on then. Perfect. Okay, so online signups. So this basically follows the same format as last year, but the time from the submissions closing to and you potentially finding out that you'll be part of the final is much shorter this year. But basically, the submissions will open during the month of February of 2026. And a group of experienced game designers will choose around 22 to 25 games. It depends on how many games have qualified through the regional qualifiers. And like if we get a really cool batch of games that we can't let go of, then we might let in a few more just to sort of squeeze them in. But it's a sort of feeling out process. So basically, when we pick games from the online submissions, we use a few criteria when we look at those games and evaluate them. And they are quality, attractiveness, innovation, presentation, genre, expectations, and overall impression. And I will talk more on the specifics of those criteria in a few short moments. But first, I want to go over the sort of steps to the actual online sign up. So like I said, note only 2 months from being picked until the final at LinCon in May. So way shorter time than last year, but ample time, in my opinion, to get a working prototype from together and show up. Okay, so some other hard rules. You may submit up to 2 games, no more. Otherwise, we would drown in game submissions. And we want you to send in a pitch. And if you know what a sell sheet is, we basically want a longer, more comprehensive sell sheet. And we have some examples on our website of what that could look like. So if you're interested in specifics, please go to saga.boardgamedesign.se and you can check out a few of these more comprehensive sell sheets and use them as inspiration for your own pitch. It can maximum be 2 pages of A4 size. And you send both the pitch and some basic information about you and your game through our form. And I'll say this regarding your previous question, Frederick. It's basically even more concrete than I said it before. We want actual games, not ideas. So we don't just want something you've scribbled down and just send it in. We want you to have tested it for a few sessions. And I think this is a bit of a difference between this and the regional qualifiers, because like I said, 2 months is plenty of time to throw a prototype together, but perhaps not the best one. And if you want to develop something then and to a good working state, then 2 months is not a lot of time to get a good working game. So we prefer that for the online signups, we want your games to have been tested quite a few times, and we want you to at least be sure that the core of the game is working and is fun. And then, like in all designs, like I'm of the philosophy that you're never truly done with a design. Games are never done, only published, is something I've been saying before. And I try to live by that mantra. So we know that not all parts of a game might not have been fully figured out, and there might be some tweaking back and forth from the day that you submit to the game to the day that you show up at the final, and that's totally fine. We want the best version of your game at the final. That's what we want. Okay, and when you submit, pictures. We want to be able to look at your prototype. Please show us ideally pictures of your physical copy, but pictures of a digital version of your game, like a screenshot from Tabletop Simulator or similar platforms, also works. But please, pictures. We want to see it in action. You may also send us a video where you show the game in action and talk through a few things. It is highly optional, but it can be very helpful for us in our evaluation. So if that's something you want to do, we're totally okay with it. But we don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of videos. So you can make a longer video than 3 minutes, but we have set a rule that we will only look at the first 3 minutes of whatever you send. Or rather, we're not obligated to look longer than 3 minutes to evaluate. So please make those minutes count and try and highlight the cool parts. Okay, I think I'll stop here again. Is there anyone who has any questions about the online sign-up part of the competition before I move further? Yes, Håkan?
Yes, I have a question about combination of going to a qualifier and to do an online sign-up. I guess it's possible to combine. Or...
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
But if you qualify through one of them, then you disqualify from
Yeah, I can't be in twice.
Exactly. That would be stupid.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Matthias?
Is it easier or harder to get to finals online or offline? Is it the same?
I'll preface whatever I'll say next by saying that this is the first time we're running regional qualifiers. So I'm not sure, but I can think loudly and we'll see where we end up. So judging from what happened last year, we had 58 submissions for the online portal, and that is quite a bit of competition. And even if we exactly, the community will let us know next year, Jason writes, which is so true. So I think if we get a similar amount of pitches sent in, you will compete with a lot of games if you submit online. So you have like a 20 in 60 chance, so like a 1 in 3 chance, just going by pure statistics and disregarding any other thing. So, and if you show up at a regional qualifier, then the contrast is that then you actually get to show your game in action. You get to meet the others that also participate in the competition. And then you are less dependent on like your ability to market and pitch and speak for your game, so to speak. You will be more properly judged on just the gameplay in a regional qualifier in comparison to submitting a pitch. Are you happy? Are you happy with that answer?
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm going to Jönköping.
Nice.
To meet in person because that's just what I prefer. But I was just curious on your thoughts on the process. So
yep.
It was of curiosity. Thank
okay.
you.
Cool. Rikke, you have raised your hand.
Yes, and I'm typing as my notes as we're speaking. It's sort of a comment on that because what I imagine from being online submitting versus being there with the game played, having been in your role as the one to pick up games, I think it would be a lot easier for me to get a real impression of the game if it's there physically, whether I put my picture onto, whether that is good or bad. So, I mean, you read a pitch, you go like, that sounds like it could work, or that sounds like it could not work. But when you show up and play it, you will see like, oh, this is actually fun, or I don't feel like this is working. So I think it will, I would imagine with the game that actually works, it would be possibly easier on a regional thing. I'm also curious, I have a question too about like how that's going to work. Will you go to Malmö, see 10 games, then immediately pick, oh, these two are going, or will you see all the games in different places and then in the end say, well, we're gonna pick these guys here, or like how fast is the session? How much do you keep them up against each other in the different cities?
So our plan is to use the same ranking system as we did for the final last year. So basically everyone who participates in the regional qualifier will be asked to play at least 2 other games, part of the qualifier, and rank them. And then we'll take the rankings of everyone who participated, throw into our model, and it will spit out the result, basically. So me personally, I won't even attend a few of the qualifiers. I won't have looked at a few of the games, even though I'm part of the group that selects during the online sign up. So there's no process outside of the rankings done on site, basically.
So whether you have 10 great games in one city and only 2 in another, there will be 4 from each joining the competition in the end.
So like I said before, for every 5 games, part of a regional qualifier, 1 game will go on. So if a regional qualifier has less than 5 games participating, then sorry, none get in. Then we probably won't run the qualifier at all, actually. Then it will just be like
we're thinking that, or maybe
event.
at least 1 game or something. Thanks.
We'll play it by ear. Okay, we got some questions in the chat. I'll address those first. So first off, Tobias wrote that designers that are already selected through the regionals can't be selected again. So some designers are unable to submit online. And I'm guessing you're saying that, Tobias, as a way to say that we will probably have a bit fewer online submissions this year, just from the fact that we're running regional qualifiers.
Yeah, that's basically what I was saying.
Yeah, makes sense. Another question from Fredrik Jensen. Do you need to bring more than 1 copy of your game or prototype for LinCon? No, you only need to bring 1. Second question, do you need a written rulebook, or is it sufficient that you teach the game at the table at LinCon? It's sufficient for you to teach the game on site at LinCon. Jason, you have a question.
Yeah, for the regional things, you have the 2 categories: heavyweight, the anvil, and the feather.
Yep.
Say you've got 1 feather game against 4 anvil games at a regional. Yep. That's 5 people. 1 will be chosen still.
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't do the categories for the regional qualifiers.
Okay, you can decide that later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
On top of that, what does that mean if you get in the end 20 anvil games and no feather, or the other way around, because that's what happened at the regionals? Is that not going to be an issue for your planning at LinCon?
So that's basically why we're trying to do the online submissions a bit later than the regional qualifiers. That's our aim. Yes, so we can tweak it to balance it out, basically. So yes, I don't think we'll get 20 games from the regional qualifiers. I would be extremely happy. I'll be extremely happy if we get like 10. And let's say that those 10 games are anvils, then we will probably lean heavier on lighter games in the online submissions. But I don't think we'll get 10 anvil games as part of the regional qualifiers. But we'll see.
It could also be the other way, like
yes,
the games.
We'll see what happens.
Yep.
It'll be fun.
Good fun.
Yeah. Okay, no more raised hands. So I will go on to, okay, so Anders also writes in the chat, which this also means that there's a gamble in online submissions as the wins from qualifiers seed the field. Will be interesting to follow. Yeah, a bit of a seeding. That's true. Absolutely. Okay, so then some notes about the final. Some final notes about the final. So basically, we've talked about a lot of this stuff already, but you're expected to show up at LinCon. It's 2 days of gaming. You teach your game on site, no rule book required. You play games of others. I think last year, people part of the Anvil category played 3 other games, if I remember correctly. And people part of the feather category played 4 or 5 other games outside their own. Someone who was part of the competition can correct me on that if they remember it clearly. Then once you've played, same thing as the regional qualifiers, you rank all the games you played and submit them. And for the final, we also have an external jury this year as well, which last year it consisted of many different people part of the Swedish board game community. So we had podcasters, we had reviewers, we had just knowledgeable board game players, we had cafe owners. Yeah, we had a multitude of people part of the jury, basically. Enthusiasts, if you will. And Magnus corrects me on the number of games we played through Anvil and Feather last year. So people part of the Anvil played 2 other games, and people part of the Feather played 4 other games. Since we're running 2 days this year instead, I imagine that we will ask you to play a few more games than that for this year, since we'll have more time allotted for the competition. At least that's my vision. We'll see where we end up in the end. Exactly, and Magnus also writes that the external jury played more games than the ones who participated in the competition. So the people that were part of the Anvil jury played 4 games, and the people part of the Feather jury played 6 games. So they had more games to rank, and therefore had more influence on the results. A little bit, at least. Okay, so Erik asks, are rulebooks encouraged? I'll never say no to a rulebook, because it can greatly help in both in evaluating a game and understanding a game, but it can also help greatly in the design process. So I will always encourage people to write rulebooks. So yes, rulebooks are encouraged, but not mandatory. And one thing that I could clarify regarding the ranking system, you don't rank your own game, if that wasn't obvious already. Yes, but it's still part of what we did during the day. That's true, Rikke. So you played your own game 2 times, and then you played a number of other games. So it was a full day. Okay, some more on the final. Yes, so we will hold an award ceremony on the evening of the 16th of May, a short time after the last sessions has been run, and we've had enough time to run the model to decide the winner for the competition. We haven't settled on how we'll do the award ceremony this year, but if it's anything like last year, we'll do a few shout outs, we'll celebrate, we'll talk a bit, and then you get a trophy. Yay, trophy. Okay, so now we move on to the slide about ranking and the jury. I think we've covered most of these things already, but I'll mention them again. So everyone ranks the games they play. We run it through a program that calculates the winner. The more you play, the better the system works. An external jury is an important part of judging in the final. And the jury are, and this is a bit important, the jury are instructed to rank using the criteria I mentioned earlier. So now I want to talk a little bit about what those criteria actually are. So first up, we have, yes, Matthias.
I think I can ask this question before you go through the criteria.
Yes.
For how many years have you been doing this Saga thing?
This is the 2nd year.
So last year there was no. Did you notice like there were some players who designers who submitted the games like they tried to like vote on the games that wasn't their own. They tried to vote it like lower or rank them lower because they were like very. They thought of it like a competition that they would make sure that their game would get higher ranks, but lowering other people's games.
I mean, that's a very I'll commend you for that. That's a very game designer way of thinking of things. Like, what are the incentives part of the competition? And yes, that was one worry that we had when we discussed the system. But in practice, I think that we encourage all participants, or we did last year, to just arrange the games in a list. And you have to put some game on top. And we just decided to rely on people being honest with their opinions to make this thing actually work. I mean, it's a pretty low stakes competition. I mean, you win some fame and glory, a nice trophy, and a few small prizes. But in the end, it's about building community, getting your game to workable state, growing as a game designer, networking with others. So I think that most people realize what we're trying to do with this competition, and they don't want to sabotage that. At least that's my impression from last year, and I hope it will be the same this year.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone in this sort of community wants to be that person who, that's what I said earlier. And also, I think I look at your website, and after this presentation, I think you have made it very clear that this is not like this. What you are trying to do, you are trying to build up a community around the Swedish this board game designers. So I think you have made that very clear.
Yeah. Exactly.
But thank you for answering my question.
Perfect. Okay, so a few short words on criteria. So I mentioned them briefly before, and you can read. I'll go through this quickly because I've already talked a lot, like usual. You can read all about these criteria on our website, and if you have any questions, you can just email us and we'll happily answer anything. So first off, quality. Is there a clear connection between the theme of the game and its mechanics? Do the mechanisms seem appropriate, and do they together contribute to a good gaming experience? What emotions does the game evoke, and do they resonate well with the intent behind the design? Attractiveness. Is the concept behind the game exciting? Is there anything that makes it stand out? Is the theme unusual or even completely untested? Innovation. Is the game breaking new ground? Does it try something new? Does it solve a design problem in an innovative way? Presentation. How well is the UI design? Do the graphic elements emphasize the theme? Does the game make an effort to make it easier to learn? So I want to stop here for a little bit, because presentation is not about how good your game looks. It's how well it communicates what it's trying to do to you while you're playing. So UI, UX, not nice art and fancy graphics and that sort of stuff. Okay, and finally, genre-specific expectations. Does the game meet the expectations of games in its genre? How has the game dealt with the design challenges common in its genre? So for like a party game, does it play quick? Is the rules light? Is it fun? What sort of emotions does it evoke? You know, those sort of things. But then again, I'll say this. If a game breaks genre expectations in an interesting way, that can be a boon and not a slight towards the game as well. So, you know, like always, we use these criteria, and we ask the jury to use these criteria as a guideline or as guidelines. And in the end, it's more about their overall impression and not some hard cut like, oh, I put a 5 for quality and a 1 for attractiveness, and I ended up with a score of 20, and therefore this game is worse than that game over there that got a score of 21. That's not how we use them. We use them as guidelines, as inspiration, as something to use when you evaluate your game, or when we evaluate a game. Yes, Rige?
Yes, so I was wondering, these are the criteria for the jury. Will there also be like some guidelines for the designers judging each other's game? Because our votes count just as much, and I sensed last year that people were voting from very different criteria.
Yep. So last year we said that everyone should rank according to their own personal preference and overall impressions of the game. And I think we said that So the jury has to use these criteria when judging. That's what we said to some extent. And we said that any one part of the competition could use them as inspiration, but we didn't say that they had to use them. And I think the jury's still out on what if we should ask participants to use these criteria as well. So I think I'll have to get back on that particular question at a later date.
Yeah, a bit of expansion. I don't think there has to be this extensive, but some overall guidelines of what kind of way you should think. A concrete example is last year, I heard somebody say, well, they voted by, would I like to play this game again? So the better they would like to play it again, the higher the rank, which is fine for personal preference, but I think that's unfair to the design in a way, because you go like, well, I never liked deduction games, so that deduction game is getting 0 points from me.
Yeah.
But actually, it's the best deduction game that anybody ever designed in the way that deduction games should be. So I feel like it should be more like, is it a good game for its kind?
Yes.
Rather than is it a game that I would like to play again, because I don't like that kind of games. I don't like worker placement, so worker placement don't have a chance with me.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that it's a great exercise as a game designer to play games that are usually not your preference, and just try to think of what a game that you don't usually like does well. So yeah, I think that's a great point, Rikke. It's definitely something we should consider, and I'll take that with me, and we'll talk about it. Thank you. Fredrik asks, will there be specific feedback to each game, for example, from other participants and jury, besides knowing if your game won or not? So for the online submission, we will provide feedback to the pitch. To all the pitches that don't make it into the competition, we will provide feedback. So even if you don't end up in the final, you will get some feedback on our impressions of your pitch and basically some advice on how you can better present your game to make it seem attractive in terms of a pitch. So that's one kind of feedback you will get. We also, during both the regional qualifiers and the final, we will encourage everyone to give feedback during the sessions. We will have some time between the game slots where you will have plenty of time to talk with the people who play tested your game and get their opinions on how it rolled and everything. So we want, going back to our goal, we want to encourage community and interaction between designers and networking and growing as game designers. So we encourage everyone to give feedback. But I guess, Fredrik, you're also asking if we'll have some more, sort of formal collection of feedback from people, part of the jury, to the designers. And I know that was a feedback we got last year, that would have been nice, both from members of the jury and people part of the competition. I think it's the same here. We haven't put our foot down for that particular question, but it would be nice to provide some sort of feedback. So I think we'll try and figure out the logistics of it and see if we can make it possible in some sort of way that doesn't, involve too much work for us.
Yeah.
Are you?
I mean, it's super valuable, but also a lot of work for a few people to do after the competition. So we know the dilemma from festival, right? But it's super valuable if you can get to that point where that is a takeaway you get regardless if you win or not. I mean, that's part of the old community building as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we encourage people to share their thoughts at the table. But yes, some way to be able to submit feedback post convention or at a later date would be nice as well. Magnus, who was head of jury last year, has raised his hand.
Yeah, I just want to share the thought that last year we had a mission that the feedback should not focus on comparing games. The feedback was mainly intended to what makes this game better. And that's also the jury ranking is more like, okay, we have to compare to get a winner, but the focus was let's try and give feedback to a specific game instead, because I don't think anyone would be happy just to say, okay, your game was much longer than that one. Okay, what does that mean really? And in this competition there will be different juries each time, so I don't think you can really aim to, okay, I know last year I made a game with too much red pieces, now I must do it with more blue pieces. It's more like, how can you improve that game?
Excellent thoughts. Thank you, Magnus. Okay, so I think I'll move on. So now for the good stuff. What do I win? Yay, prizes. Well, like I said, once again, we want to focus on community, so prizes are not our main focus, but we want to offer something up for the ones who actually win, for them to sort of commemorate and remember their experience and their winning something. So we've talked with some of our contributors or collaborators for this competition and come up with a few small prizes that can help you as a game designer go further in your journey. That was the idea. So like I said, if participating should ideally feel like its own reward, but a few things. You will get a free print run of a full prototype from Game Prototyper. It is a Swedish printing company which specializes in small print runs and prototypes, board game prototypes specifically. And if you win, you will get one printing of a prototype for free, which is great for if you want to go on to move your game into pitching, or if you want to try to market it by some other means. That's a great basis to have that. We have also partnered with the Swedish publisher Ion Game Designs, and they have a private publishing program, which they call P3. And we have a SAGA session from last year where you can learn more about that publishing program and all the ins and outs of how it works. But basically, it's a program where you can get their help to self-publish your game. Basically, for a small fee, or for a fee, I should say, you can get help in kickstarting your game or just printing it up and selling it and that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in that, the starting fee for their private publishing program will be waived for whoever ends up winning. You will also get some benefits from the German Game Designers Union, SAZ. Last year, the winners of the competition got a free table at the game designer convention in Göttingen in Germany, which they have yet to be able to use, but they will be able to go next year for free. So Gustav asks, will there only be one winner for each category? No silver, gold, bronze placements? There will only be one winner for each category, yes. No silver, gold, or bronze. But one thing I've been considering, which we haven't discussed more thoroughly in the sort of inner circle, is if we should do nominations for each category. So you can say, so even if you didn't end up winning, you might have been nominated for one of the prizes, and then you can use that as a sort of feather in your hat instead. Okay. You will also get a beautiful, beautiful trophy. I was actually unsuccessful in finding an actual picture of the trophy, which was sad. But I've had to the right here, you can see sort of the printouts for what they basically look like, but they were printed in plastic, very nice looking plastic, and etched in white. So they ended up looking really nice. So we were quite happy with those, and we're hoping to have some sort of trophy this year as well. And then finally, fame and glory, of course. Being the winner of anything is cool. At least I think so. So if you win this thing, you can say, hey, this year I was the best board game designer in Sweden. Maybe. Or some claim to fame at least. Okay. Moving on. Finally, how do I sign up? So online submissions, forms open on our website on the 1st of February, and they close on the last of February. 23:59 on the 28th of February. The submissions closes for the online sign up. And basically, you go into our website, you click a big button, you fill out the form, send in the materials, and then submit it. Regional qualifiers. Like I said before, please register by emailing us at saga@boardgamedesign.se. You can show up on site, but we can't guarantee a spot in the qualifier if you do. If you want to be sure that you will be able to participate, send us an email. All right, that's finally it. I've talked almost nonstop for the better part of an hour. I hope that you're not too tired of me at this point. But if you have any questions, please raise them now or forever hold your silence. So, Simon.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can answer this, but will there be other things design related at LinCon? So other reasons for designers to go there, and maybe people that that didn't go on to reach the finals, but maybe participated. Is there a point for them to come to LinCon anyway?
Absolutely, there is. I don't know if this is a leading question by you, Simon, but
No.
LinCon has a very thriving game designer community that shows up every year. I think we were almost 30 designers or something that showed up in the game designer room at LinCon, and I'm sure there will be one this year as well, along with all the participants in SAGA. So if you are a curious board game designer, there are many reasons to go to LinCon just to playtest, check out the SAGA games, network with other board game designers, and maybe playtest your own games and stuff. And outside of that, LinCon is, as I mentioned, maybe the largest board game convention in Sweden. So there are plenty of games, shops, different sort of exhibitors, and many different activities at LinCon, which would be interesting to anyone interested in board games overall. So I highly recommend anyone going, basically. It's a great time. Oh yeah, should also mention that LinCon runs more days than the competition. So the competition is only for the 15th and 16th of May, but LinCon runs 14th through 17th of May. So there are more days to just roam around LinCon if you want to. Any other questions?
Did you say 15th, 16th of May?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
For you, that's since I knew you're Swedish, it's Kristi himmelsfärdshelgen, 15 och 16.
Okay, I will take the opportunity to say thank you very much, Daniel, for presenting the 2026 SAGA. It has been very informative, and I hope a lot of the people here are already inspired to submit or showcase their game designs, of course. Are there any more questions from the floor? We have heard a lot of questions throughout the presentation, but if there is anyone, please raise your hand. But we will also soon do a quick break for 10 minutes or so. And after the break, we will continue the discussion, and you will have some more time to ask any questions you might that might pop up after the break. Okay. I can't see that anyone has raised their hand. So I think we will conclude the Q&A as well. Okay, once again, thank you, Daniel, for presenting this, and thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. Yes, we will see each other again soon after the break, and we will have our break until 10 o'clock. Okay, thank you, everyone. And do you have any final words to say, by the way, Daniel? Final words?
Final words. It sounds like I'm going to an execution of some sort. Any final thoughts? No. I think thank you so very much for showing up, or if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Facebook or visit saga.boardgamedesign.se. And quick reminder, online submissions open in February, regional qualifiers January through April. Please submit.
Yes, I see Matthias has raised his hand, so we will take the final question now. Yes.
You are going to upload this on YouTube, right?
Yes, it will be
so
within a week.
If there are any questions after a break, I will watch them, but I have to go now. So I will thank you, Daniel and Tobias, and good luck, everyone, and good night. Okay.
And that concludes the session for tonight. We'll see each other after the break. Bye, everyone.